He slurred out a hate-filled insult and told me to fuck off back to England. All because I tried to help him. So yeah, I helped myself instead to his driver's license. And what happened next? Let's just say karma came fast, cold, and wrapped in a hedge. Welcome back to the Revenge Podcast. If you've ever felt the sting of a stranger's disrespect or dreamed of sweet, poetic justice, then you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and buckle up for a petty revenge story that feels like it came straight from a dark comedy screenplay. This is the story of how I turned a night of verbal abuse into a satisfying little triumph. It all started over a decade ago, during one of the most unforgettable trips of my life, a 3-week road trip across the United States. I was in my mid-20s at the time, wide-eyed, adventurous, and coming from the UK. America had always fascinated me. Its culture, people, vast landscapes, and yes, the food. We'd landed in New York and planned to drive west, all the way, to the Pacific. We weren't on any strict schedule. We were more interested in stories than destinations. Along the way, we'd met people from all walks of life. Barbers in Georgia, artists in New Orleans, retired soldiers in Texas. And 99% of them were absolutely lovely, genuine, curious, friendly. But of course, this story isn't about them. We weren't drunk, buzzed, maybe, but still sharp enough to notice something happening up ahead. About 30 feet in front of us, a man stumbled out of a bar. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a red t-shirt that looked like it had been sweat-soaked hours ago. He was loud, slurring, and his gait screamed trouble. Clumsily, he pulled something out of his pocket and in the process, dropped his wallet. The thing hit the pavement with a slap, and out scattered a dozen cards like a bad game of 52 pickup. Dan and I instinctively paused. Another guy, a smaller, more alert man, probably a friend, hurried to help him. Between the two of them, they managed to gather most of the mess. The big drunk guy swayed violently on his feet, lit his last cigarette with hands that barely cooperated, then hurled the now empty pack behind him without a care in the world. It fluttered to the sidewalk like it had somewhere important to be. Then he collapsed, knees first, onto the ground and rolled onto his side. We kept watching, unsure whether to help or move on. But something caught my eye near the gutter. It was a plastic card, about the size of a driver's license. Dan squinted. Is that his ID? I walked a few steps closer to confirm, careful not to get too close in case this turned into some kind of weird confrontation. Yep, it was definitely a driver's license. His photo, his name, his address, everything. I hesitated for a second. This would have been a great time for a bit of human kindness. I could have picked it up and handed it over, no drama. So I raised my voice and called out, "Hey, mate, your driver's license. It's right there on the ground." What happened next completely shifted the tone of the night. The drunk guy barely turned his head. But when he did, he squinted in my direction like I just insulted his ancestors. Then, without missing a beat, he bellowed, "That's a cigarette packet. Fuck off back to England. You fucking twat." Silence. The kind that wraps around your ears and doesn't let go. I froze. Dan froze. People walking nearby froze. It was like someone had just slammed a piano key in the middle of a quiet room. I didn't even know how to respond at first. Have you ever been insulted so abruptly, so viscerally, that your brain just stalls? I stood there, still holding my arm out toward the ID, like some kind of idiot, stunned. Mid-kindness, my fingers slowly curled back in. The smile that had been on my face seconds ago vanished, replaced by something cold and metallic under my skin. It wasn't just the slur, though, let's be clear, that alone was enough to make blood boil. It was the combination of it all. The xenophobia, the cruelty, the smugness. He didn't know me, had no idea where I was from beyond the accent, no idea what I stood for. But in that moment, to him, I was a foreigner, target, someone beneath him, and suddenly, That innocent driver's license at my feet took on a very different meaning. I bent down, slowly, scooped it up, and gave it one long look. His name was there, his birthday, his address, his dumb, blurry, DMV-style face, staring back up at me, with a blank expression. Dan looked at me. "You all right, mate?" I didn't respond right away, but then I felt this grin forming, one I didn't plan. "If I'm gonna fuck off back to England," I said loud enough for them to hear, "I'll need a souvenir." And just like that, I slipped his driver's license into my pocket. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I didn't call him names back. That would have been too easy, too expected. No, I wanted something a little more poetic, something subtle. Petty? Absolutely. But satisfying? Oh, you have no idea. Now let's pause for a moment and consider what just happened here. I could have walked away, could have done the mature thing. But when you go out of your way to help someone, a stranger, no less, and they respond not just with rudeness, but with venomous hatred, something changes in you. There's this strange intersection where anger meets strategy. And in that place, my friend, revenge is born. We kept walking like nothing had happened, drifting closer to the next bar. My hand was still in my pocket, feeling the edge of the license, and I began to imagine this guy, the next morning, waking up with a hangover the size of Texas, trying to remember where he left it. His morning would be a disaster. No ID, no way to drive, no bars for the weekend, no proof of age, no entry, and depending on the state laws, maybe even trouble if he got pulled over. I could have thrown it in the nearest bin and been done with it. But karma deserves a little flavor. We'd barely gotten 2 blocks away when I heard someone calling from behind us. Hey you, wait. I turned, and there he was, the sober friend, the smaller one who'd helped the guy earlier. His face was flushed with effort and mild panic. He jogged up, breathless, and looked me in the eye. "Hey man, sorry. Really sorry about what my friend said. He's had way too much. Didn't mean it. He's not usually like that." I raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" Because he seemed very practiced at it. He gave a weak chuckle and rubbed the back of his neck. "Look, I get it. Did he drop his license? We think he lost it back there." I paused. And then came the final play. I turned and looked around like I was trying to remember. Then I gestured, vaguely, toward a large, overgrown hedge that ran the length of the building beside us. "I think I saw something land in there." He followed my hand and nodded. "Thanks, man. Appreciate it." I gave him a polite smile and stepped into the bar, the door closing behind me with a satisfying click. We stayed in that bar for about 30 minutes. It was a cozy, low-lit place, with sticky floors, and a pool table, missing a corner pocket. Dan bought the first round, and we toasted to souvenirs, I joked. But even as the buzz returned, and conversation picked back up, couldn't help but glance out the window toward the hedge. And there they were. The drunk guy was up again, wobbly, but determined. The sober friend had a phone in one hand and was scanning the hedge with the other. I saw them talking to 2 more people now, possibly dragging others into the search. Flashlights were coming out. There was pointing, bending over, pushing leaves around, muttering. Only one problem. They were 20 feet off from where I'd actually thrown the ID, and I'd made sure it went deep, buried, behind thick leaves down a small embankment, tucked out of sight. You'd have to be stone cold sober, determined, and lucky to find it. But he was none of those things. The sober friend? Maybe he had a shot, but even then, it would have taken more time than they probably had before they gave up, or the bars started closing. Watching them was like watching ants try to find a breadcrumb you'd already eaten. Dan nudged me. "Think they'll find it?" I shook my head. Not a chance. He smiled. Justice. I raised my glass. Poetic justice. Because sometimes revenge doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't have to involve confrontation, or violence, or even raised voices. Sometimes it just takes a quiet act of refusal. A moment where you decide, no, you don't get to treat people like that. Not today. And then you let the world handle the rest. We eventually left the bar, maybe an hour later, and as we walked back toward the car, couldn't help but glance once more toward that same stretch of hedge. They were gone now. No more frantic searches, no flashlight beams slicing through the leaves, no angry mutters or drunken yells, just silence. And in that silence, I felt something strange settle in my chest. Was it satisfaction? Maybe, but more than that, it was clarity. See, I'm not the kind of person who enjoys cruelty. I don't like hurting people. I wasn't raised that way. But there's something deeply human about wanting balance, about needing the universe to acknowledge when a wrong has been done. And if the universe is too busy to step in, well, sometimes it's up to us. What struck me the most that night wasn't just how casually that man had hurled hate at me, but how instantly he felt entitled to do it, entitled to treat a stranger with disgust for doing something kind. And the irony? I could have walked away. I had nothing to prove. But instead, I gave him something to remember. Not a punch, not an argument, just inconvenience. A small, persistent thorn in his side, and it likely cost him more than he thought. Maybe he had to file for a replacement license. Maybe he was stranded that night, unable to drive home. Maybe he missed out on another bar, or got into trouble trying to get in without an ID. Maybe, just maybe, he learned to think before he spoke to a stranger again. And, honestly, that's enough for me. Some people might hear this story and say, what's the big deal? You just took a piece of plastic. But that's the thing, isn't it? Petty revenge doesn't need to be grand. It's the kind of revenge that whispers, not screams. It doesn't start wars, but it's plants seeds. It's the exact right amount of justice for the exact wrong kind of person. Because when you're on the receiving end of cruelty, unprovoked, unearned, unexpected, it stings in a way that doesn't fade easily. You remember it, you question yourself, you carry it. But when you get to hand that sting right back, even in miniature, it lets you reclaim something: dignity, power, control. That night, with a single flick of my wrist, tossing that license deep into the hedge, I wasn't just getting even. I was reminding myself that I mattered, that my kindness wasn't weakness, that strangers don't get to stomp all over your goodwill and walk away clean. That man will never remember me, but I'll remember what he taught me, that not everyone deserves your kindness, but everyone should fear your silence, because silence can be sharp. And that night, I let it cut. So what's the takeaway here? Sometimes justice isn't about grand gestures, or courtrooms, or big wins. Sometimes it's hiding a license in a hedge and walking away with your head high, not because you won, but because you refused to lose yourself. If you've ever been on the receiving end of a totally uncalled for insult, especially when you were just trying to do the right thing, hit that like button. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's the pettiest revenge you've ever pulled off? I want to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe if you love stories where justice isn't just served, it's elegantly delivered. More revenge tales are coming soon, and trust me, They only get better from here. Thanks for listening. Until next time, stay sharp and stay kind, unless they really deserve it.